the 10 best Syracuse basketball and football transfer portal additions since 2020. And we are counting 2024, even if some of those players have not played yet for Syracuse. And the reason why I say that is because number one is someone who has not played a down for Syracuse football yet. Yes, football to lead us off. And that is Fadil Diggs, 6'5", 260-pound defensive lineman. He transferred from Texas A&M after 4 seasons there. He's entering in his last year of eligibility. And I recently said that I believe he is the second best player on Syracuse football's roster, only behind Oronde Gadsden. So if you're looking at another transfer who's going to make this list in Kyle McCord, he has to be ranked ahead of Kyle McCord if I think he is a better player at his position than Kyle McCord. Second on Texas A&M this past season in tackles for loss with 11. And he could, as of right now, projects to be around a mid-round pick in the NFL draft. The last one I saw, which was from USA Today, had Fadil Diggs in the 4th round of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, team doesn't really matter because you don't know exactly how the draft is going to shake out or how the NFL season is going to shake out. But nevertheless, I believe he was pick number 112. And so Fadil Diggs projects to be around a 4th round pick this year. And if he has a good year, maybe he'll be even higher than that. I think the way to improve is that his career high in sacks for a season was last year with only 4. Perhaps he can raise that total to 7 or 8. And let's be honest, the ACC is an easier conference than the SEC. So maybe he gets about 7 to 8 sacks this season and boosts that draft stock. So Fadil Diggs, in my opinion, is the best transfer portal addition that Syracuse football or basketball has made since 2020. Let's move on to number 2. We're going to go to basketball. Basketball now. And that is JJ Starling, 6'4", 200-pound shooting guard. He transferred from Notre Dame after being a 5-star recruit over there. He played 1 season. He was an all-freshman in the ACC in his only year at Notre Dame. He still has 2 years of eligibility left. He played this past season for Syracuse, of course, and he averaged 13 points a game, 3 rebounds, and an assist, or 2 assists per game. Pretty efficient from the field. He was, I believe, 46% from the field. So he was someone who got better as the season went on, and we've talked about it a number of times here on this podcast. But what I've really left out is I believe that last season's JJ Starling was the floor. I believe that was the floor for him. And he did show improvement from his freshman year. I think maybe we were a little underwhelmed because he was such a highly ranked transfer coming in, and he was a former 5-star recruit. But I think we saw his floor. Obviously, he was coming off shoulder surgery, adjusting to a new offense, a new team. It's not easy. And so he struggled heading into ACC play. But once he got into conference play, he was a significantly better player. And he was one of the reasons why Syracuse almost made that turnaround and almost backdoored their way into the NCAA tournament. They were just a couple games away. If they had won at Clemson and then maybe made a little bit of a run in the ACC tournament, they could have made it. JJ Starling, of course, was benched in that Clemson game for his poor defense. But I think we saw the floor from JJ Starling this past season. So he is my number 2 transfer that Syracuse football or basketball has added since 2020. Moving on, let's go back to football. Promise you it's not going to alternate between football and basketball this entire time. And that is number 3, Kyle McCord. I believe he is the 3rd best transfer addition Syracuse football or basketball has made since 2020. 6'3", 210-pound quarterback heading into his last year of eligibility. 4-star Ohio State transfer. I believe he was a top 15 quarterback transfer in this past class. Top 10 QBR in the nation. We've gone through his numbers, over 3,000 yards, 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. You know his numbers by now. And you know my opinion about how Kyle McCord, if you are new, my opinion on Kyle McCord is I think he is a very solid quarterback, probably at least top 5 in the ACC. But at the same time, I think he was a victim of the fact that Ohio State has had so many great quarterbacks over the years. I mean, the previous 3 before him were all first-round NFL draft picks. Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, CJ Stroud, all went in the first round. I believe all of them went in the top 20 of the first round. So Kyle McCord didn't light the world on fire. I know he had the best weapons maybe in the country, Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka. That running game was really strong. You know, their offensive line is good too at Ohio State. I think he is a solid quarterback. And if we're going by, I'm kind of ranking this by the best that they've added, the best transfers. And that's why I think Kyle McCord's third. But if you were to say the most impactful in terms of a player that can really change a program, I would say it might be Kyle McCord because he's the quarterback. He's the quarterback from Ohio State, highly touted. If he leads Syracuse to 9 to 10 wins this season, that can change the trajectory of Syracuse football, which is already looking up with Fran Brown under the controls now. Fadil Diggs can have a great season and be a better player, but he might not be as impactful as Kyle McCord. But still, this list is the best transfer additions, not the most impactful transfer additions. But nevertheless, Kyle McCord still comes in at number 3 on my list. Number 4, we're staying with football, and we're staying with a quarterback. I believe Garrett Shrader needs some love. Garrett Shrader, he transferred from Mississippi State heading into the 2021 season. He beat out Tommy DeVito after they were going back and forth early in his first season at Syracuse. Tommy DeVito was coming off, I believe, ACL surgery, and they were going back and forth early in that season. Garrett Shrader beat him out due to, in part, his running ability. His career stats in 3 seasons at Syracuse, mostly as a starter, by the way. 39 passing touchdowns to 17 interceptions. Not terrible. Could be better. 60% completion percentage. Again, not terrible, but could be better. But he also ran for 31 touchdowns while at Syracuse. So 60 combined or 70 combined touchdowns. Forgive me with poor math there. 39 plus 31 is 70. 70 career touchdowns in 3 seasons at Syracuse. He didn't have the highest ceiling in the world, but you knew what you were getting in terms of a floor from Garrett Shrader. When they were playing against that poor competition, you knew that Garrett Shrader can light them up. It was just when they were playing against those stellar teams, that's where he really struggled. I don't really see him having an NFL future because it was his arm that was really lacking. I've said it when I've compared him and Kyle McCord together. Garrett Shrader kind of had, to me, a little bit of a noodle arm. And it makes sense. He's a converted wide receiver. He couldn't really gun it down the field. He kind of had to lollipop it in there. Every throw was like, whoop. But still, he was a very serviceable quarterback and something that I had to look up. He is the first quarterback since Ryan Nassib to lead Syracuse football to 2 bowl games in 3 seasons. Ryan Nassib did it in 2010 and 2012. Ryan Nassib was not the quarterback in 2013. They did make a bowl game in 2013, but he wasn't the quarterback then. So Nassib did it in 2010 and 2012, and Garrett Shrader did it in 2022 and 2023. So he gets a little bit of love as, in my opinion, the 4th best transfer portal addition that Syracuse football or basketball has made since 2020. Now moving on, we'll go back to basketball here. This guy is someone who's trying to make it in the NBA with the Lakers and the Heat. That might be the hint that you need here to figure this one out. Cole Swider, he transferred from Villanova heading into the 2021-22 season. He averaged 14 points and 7 rebounds on 41% three-point shooting in his only season at Syracuse. And I remember him having almost 40 points. I believe it was 36 at UNC. That game went to overtime. It was back and forth. It was a tough loss for Syracuse in really a tough season. And by the way, Syracuse, just a side note here, has never won at North Carolina. They won't have to do it this year, though. Thank goodness. They won't have to because they have them at home this year. But they've never won at North Carolina. But Cole Swider and his 36 points, they almost pulled off the upset, winning in Chapel Hill. That team, I think we need to dissect that a little bit more, but that team had 2 flaws. Number one, they had 5 great players and nobody else. Maybe 5, great is a strong word there. 5 good players and nobody else. So they had no depth. And also, they couldn't play defense. So they were a great offensive team, but they had the second worst. They were second worst in the ACC in points against per game that season. That's why they went under 500 for the first time in the Jim Boeheim era. But Cole Swider, nevertheless, was a very solid player in his only season on the Hill. So the top 5 transfer portal additions that Syracuse football or basketball has made since 2020. Fadil Diggs came in at number 1, JJ Starling at number 2, Kyle McCord at 3, Garrett Shrader at 4, and Cole Swider at 5. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment below. Now, coming up, we'll go over numbers 6 through 10 on the best transfer additions that football or basketball has made since 2020.